The future of New World is really exciting. There are a bunch of really awesome changes coming, so I wanted to talk about them. There's both changes to the PvE players, and for the players like me who like PvP a lot, there are some awesome changes coming as well. As far as PvE goes, they are going to be doing some map expansions. I'm sure with that, it's probably going to bring a level increase and more expeditions. Speaking of expeditions, there are mutators coming, which if you don't know, they basically are ways to make the expedition harder and make it different each time you go into it. Essentially, what's going to happen with these is the enemies are going to get certain buffs that are going to make it more difficult, and then they're actually going to drop better items. So this gives a really good incentive to play expeditions multiple times and really increases the longevity of the game for PvE players. Even though I'm not much of a PvE player myself, these do seem really exciting, and they did actually mention that mutators might be coming to invasions and even possibly Outpost Rush. I don't know how this would exactly work for Outpost Rush. Maybe there's different barons or different PvE monsters that you can get, like instead of brutes, you'd get some other giant monster that would fight for you, or possibly just a completely new map or like a spin on the game mode itself. I really see the future of Outpost Rush really just being gradual changes to the map and possibly how things play out and things that you can buy in the store and stuff like that. So possibly mutators will add into that and be the way that they change the game as it goes forward. Something that the devs touched on really quickly in their recent dev blog was the fact that they think that their combat shines in small scale PvP. I think small scale PvP is honestly the thing that I'm most excited about in the future. I just feel like for large scale PvP, a lot of the times, like especially for Outpost Rush, you get on a point and you're just kind of stunned, and it's just hard to like outskill people in large scale PvP. It's more of just who swarms better is what it feels like, and whose team has better focus on targets with low health. There's obviously other stuff that goes into it, but in my opinion, what I like about PvP is being able to just outskill another player and really put a lot more of the weight on me as an individual instead of as a team working together. I don't know, I just feel like I have a lot more impact that way, and I can see my mistakes a lot more that way, which allows me to improve, because if you see glaring mistakes, you're like, yeah, I just probably shouldn't do that again. Thinking about small scale combat, I really hope that it's not like 1v1s, because I feel like duels kind of already allow that, even though it's on a lesser scale, and a little arena would be cool to be added in, but I would much rather have like a 3v3 or a 5v5 objective based game mode. I think something like that would have a lot of longevity to it and really push the competitiveness of New World's PvP. The thing that I do like about 1v1s is being able to face different weapons and different builds and having to adjust my playstyle to fit around that, but I think they can accompany that with a smaller scale like 3v3 or 5v5, where you're going to fight somebody, you're going to see they're like a great axe hammer player, and you're going to play differently than if they were a fire staff ice gauntlet player. Speaking about weapons and builds, the devs did talk about new weapons that are coming into the game and the priority of the time span that these are going to be released. One of the upcoming weapons that they announced that I'm really excited for is daggers, but unfortunately they said that it's near the front of the priority, but it's definitely not a top priority right now, so we probably won't see daggers for quite some time. I'm a little bit disappointed by that, but we did get some other cool things coming in. They talked about the great sword, which a lot of people are excited about. They basically said that they're working on it, and actually brought up a cool concept that they had going into working on the great sword. They talked about stance switching. This is a new mechanic, and it would have to change the way that you approach a fight with a greatsword player about every time that you go in to fight them. I think that's a really interesting concept, and I think just kind of the basis around it would be one stance would have certain strengths and weaknesses, and then you switch to another stance and would have completely different strengths and weaknesses. So you could take like a defensive stance and maybe make it so when you're blocking, it takes less stamina, or you take less damage when you get hit. And then you can go into like an offensive stance where you hit harder, but you can take more damage, or maybe even like two different offensive stances where one is more based on a higher attack speed and the other is more based on like heavy attacks doing more damage. It just allows your build and playstyle to be a little bit more in depth than just choosing specific abilities and passives. I don't know, I think it's really, really cool. Speaking of swords, they also touched on the Sword of Shield. They were asked a question of when are other one-handed weapons going to be able to be paired with the shield. Their answer to this was pretty interesting. They basically said that it's a big process to be able to take other one-hand weapons and be able to pair them with a shield. So like taking a rapier and pairing it with a shield would be a long process, and they'd have to figure out how to make that work essentially. So taking the weapons we already have and making them work with the shield would be something more long-term, but they did talk about about a more short-term solution. They talked about the concept of bringing in brand new weapons to work with the shield. So instead of taking weapons that aren't necessarily supposed to work with the shield, they just build one from the ground up that is meant to work with the shield. So that way you have different varieties of things that you could pair with the shield. I felt like I said shield a lot in those sentences, but I think that would be really cool. It's kind of boring right now that you're limited to having to play the sword while you're using a shield. Having at least one other weapon would make it a lot more exciting, and I don't, shields just look really cool, so I just want more things to work with it. They also talked about the blunderbuss and said it's coming soon, and kind of got like a smirk on their face like it's really soon, so hopefully we'll see it in the next PTR. If you want to learn more about that, I took a really deep dive into that in this video here, so check that out. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Marcus, and thanks for watching.